Jason's going to ask you a little series of questions first, don't you, Jason?
Well, I went through most of them over
Okay.
here, so we're good. We're good to go.
Okay. All right, Eloise. Well, we really thank you for coming out and being part of the West Virginia Veterans Legacy Project. We're here in Glenville, West Virginia.
You're
And,
welcome.
we want to hear your story. And your story started out in Kansas, right?
That's where I was born, yes.
What year was that?
That was 1924.
Tell us a little bit about your parents.
My parents, my father was a Methodist minister. And we moved around. That was when they moved the ministry around about every 5 years. So when I went to the service, they moved to Washington State. And so I can't tell you whether I'm from Washington State or whether I'm from Montana, because that's where I enlisted in Montana.
Okay. Is there anything you want to tell us about the way you grew up? Had your dad served in the military?
Yes, he was in the First World War. And I had 4 brothers
Yes.
and 1 sister.
And did any of them end up in the military?
Yes, all 4 of them did.
All 4 brothers?
Yes.
And during World War II?
And no, this was after that. Probably the Korean War.
Oh, so were you one of the older of the kids?
I was second in line.
Second in line?
Yes.
Okay.
My sister was first. Then my mother had, after me, she had 4 boys.
Now, was your father, did your dad talk much about his military experiences?
No, he didn't.
Did
I
that have
just
any influence on you joining?
The boys had influence because they were too young to go. And I thought, well, some of our family should go and help in this war effort. So I decided to join. At that time, though, I was teaching school in this little town of McLeod, Montana. And it was a summer resort. And I only had 7 students, but all 7 of them were in a different grade. So that kind of caused a little confusion.
So, do you actually remember the time or tell us what you felt as the war clouds were gathering. You felt that probably, right?
Oh, yes. And I saw the signs. Uncle Sam needs you.
So when did you form the idea in your mind that you would actually join?
Well, I was teaching school at the time in this little town. So I thought a recruiter came by and wanted to know if I'd like to join the service. And I said, well, I think I would. So I talked to my father about it. And he said, well, whatever you want.
Uh-huh. How old were you then?
I was 17.
You were 17.
Almost 18.
Almost 18. So at that age, did you have to have...
You had to have your parents' signature.
And could you join when you were 17, even with your parents' signature?
No, not really, legally.
Not.
No.
So what happened there?
So I just pretended I was 18 because my birth certificate was handwritten, and it had J and an N, so it could have been January or June. So my birthday was in June. So this postmaster took my my birth certificate, and all he had to do was make a little mark there and making it January. So that's how, because his daughter his daughter was going to go to the service too, and he wanted somebody to go with her. Well, it happened that it didn't work that way, because the Navy just has their own little ways that they do things, you know. So anyway, we got on the plane in Livingston, Montana. Not the plane. We got on the train. So in Livingston, Montana.
Now, so what months did you actually go in?
I think it was in January.
In January of 42?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and obviously before Pearl Harbor,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So, what was it like? So your train ride took you from Livingston, Montana. I've been there. It's very beautiful.
Yes, it is.
You went from Livingston to where?
Livingston to New York City.
Oh,
Mhm.
oh wow.
Right.
So, had you ever been in a city? Well,
Little country girl in a big city was something else. But I found friends very easily, and we just went from there.
so
They said bear a hand, and I thought, well, I don't know what they mean to bear a hand. So anyway, do you know?
no.
They mean for you to stand up straight and get ready to march.
So, on the train from Livingston to New York, were there other enlisted women
Yes.
such as yourself?
Yes, it was mostly a troop train.
It was mostly a troop train,
Mhm.
and mostly women, or men and women.
No, it was men and women.
Well, that sounds like it could have been pretty interesting. Was it?
No, not that interesting.
Not that interesting.
No.
Had you ever been on a long train ride like
No,
that?
no.
So when you got to New York, what station did you come to?
Grand Central.
Grand Central Station,
Hmm.
and that's a big station.
Yes, it is.
And you all got off of there and tell us about that. What were your impressions?
We got off, and there was a leader, so she told us to get in line, and so we did. And we marched. I think we took buses from there out to Hunter's College. Hunter's College was a school for agriculture and military. So that's where we went. And that's where we did boot camp.
When you were getting your bus ride, you were right downtown New York City. What did that feel like?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't remember the buildings, or?
No, because it was so fascinating, and everything was so big that I just sat there and dreamed, I guess.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, what happened when you got to the college? I mean, to the camp.
Well, they assigned us rooms, and I had a room with another three girls, and I had a top bunk, and I couldn't hardly get up on that top bunk, and this one little girl was saying her prayers one night, and she was a Catholic girl, which I think is fine. So she took I stumbled over her trying to get into my bed, and she said, "That's okay. I was just trying to make amends with God." So that was okay too.
So, what was basic like for you? What did you do?
Basic. Well, I'll tell you what I did one time. We marched and I looked down, and I had a navy blue slip on. Well, the navy blue slip and the skirt were the same color, and somebody noticed that I just had a slip on with a shirt, and so I took. I had to go and ask permission to go and get my skirt on. So she gave it to me.
So did you march and do
Yes.
physical training and?
Yes, I think there was I can't remember who it was that we, was it Marshall? Was it George Marshall? I don't know. Anyway, there was a time that my brain isn't working.
Oh, that's okay. Take your time.
But
George Marshall, not George Marshall.
it was some big admiral.
That might be George Marshall, mightn't it? Yeah, George Marshall.
I think that's who it was.
So did you have cause to see him?
We had we had to go in front of him, and then he walked in front of us. So we just that was what did they call it? Some kind of parade.
Mm-hmm. So when you joined the service, did you have any idea? Did you have any choice or any idea after basic training what you would be doing?
Well, I did because they put me in a yeoman school. Yeoman is a secretary, or not secretary really, was a stenographer, is what they called us.
Okay.
So that was in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
So that was your next stop. How long were you in basic training? Do you remember about?
I think it was about 6 weeks. Maybe a little bit longer.
How was the food?
Food wasn't bad.
Uh-huh.
Only when they had mutton. You know what mutton is?
Kind of.
Mutton is a big sheep. It's a big, big sheep. Is what it is, and it has a very funny taste to it. So we could smell it all the time it was cooking. So we would take off and go to mess hall and go to someplace else besides the mess hall.
So you had that option.
Yes, we had a little place that we could get food.
Now, did you get any leave? Did you have any chance to go into New York City?
Yes, we had. I think it was just 2 times that we could go into, but they wouldn't let us go to Chinatown. I know that.
Where did you go? Do you remember? What did you see? Do you remember what you saw?
Well, my father told me. He says, "Don't get lost in New York City." But he said, if you find a clock or a big something that you can see very easily, then you go ahead and you find that, and that will be your place that your stopping place. That will be the place you can get on the tram whenever you want to.
Okay, so tell us a few of the things you remember when you got to go on tour in New York City.
Well, we went to the Statue of Liberty in Staten Island, and we just did all kind of things. But the things that they told us not to do, we sneaked into Chinatown.
Oh.
But we didn't stay very long because we got scared, and decided that that wasn't the thing you're supposed to do. So we went on back.
What do you remember what you ate when you were in New York City, or where you ate?
We ate pizza.
You ate pizza.
Uh-huh.
What'd you think of New York pizza?
I think that's the first pizza I ever had was in New York City.
So next you went to Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what did you do there?
We went to stenographer school, or yeoman school they called it. And we did, all the things that you do in high school. We'd take notes and do things of that sort.
Well,
And fill out forms that the Navy had to have. So that's what we did.
now, did that training, was that interesting to you, and did it come easily?
Yes, because I had all this before in high school.
Well, how was it you you were in a one-room school, more or less,
Yes,
at teaching at the age of 17, true?
yes, right.
How was it that
Really
you became
16.
a teacher?
Well, I went to Teachers College in Billings, Montana. And I went to, I got most of my education there.
Now, how long did that take?
I was there for a year and a half. And then they gave me a teaching permit that I could have to teach.
Okay.
So that's what I did. That's where my 7 kids came in.
Right. So, after your training at Stillwater, did you make friends in Stillwater?
Oh yes.
And anybody remember?
Ooh, no. I can see them, but I can't remember their names. One of them was Donna, but I can't remember.
Okay.
Can't remember their names.
And what did you think of Oklahoma?
Well, we lived in Kansas before,
Right.
so I was quite familiar with that.
Okay. What happened next in your life?
Well, after Stillwater, we had a little leave, and so I went home, and I was really proud of my uniform. And so we all the boys, I bought my brothers some little tokens, and I think Gary still has his. But there was nothing extravagant.
Did your parents, the war had not started yet, and that probably would have changed things, but did your parents have any reservations at all about you going into the
Yes.
military?
Yes.
What did your father or mother express to
My
you?
father, my father was the one that signed me up to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the war was going on, wasn't it? At that time?
Yeah, the war was already going on.
It was
Yeah.
going on, but it was prior to U.S.
But the U.S. wasn't involved yet.
Yeah. could
But
be.
he probably knew that they were going to get involved.
Yes.
So, did he express anything about you putting yourself in potentially harm's way, or did he?
Yes, he told me that I could go if I didn't go overseas. He said, I don't want you going overseas. So, but luckily the waves weren't allowed to go overseas. They were allowed to go as far as Hawaii, and at that time Hawaii was not a state.
Okay, so what happened after you completed stenography school?
Well, let's see. Then I was transferred to San Diego, and it was a redistricting distribution center where you go and they put you where they want you, where they need you. So they put me in the north let's see, they put me at first. That's where I went. It was North Bend. No, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was a Naval Air Station at this place.
Now, was that the first time you'd ever seen the ocean?
Oh, I think so.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Did you get to go swimming? And
We did later on, but right at first we didn't.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So tell us, how long were you in San Diego, and what was that experience like?
I was there for way over a year, and that was quite an experience. That's a beautiful place, and it's really a nice town. But and that's where I met my husband. Was in San Diego.
Oh, tell us about that.
Yes, it was at the Grand Hotel. We were a friend of mine and I decided we would go dancing that night. I loved to dance. In fact, I'd rather jitterbug than I would eat. so we went to this Grand Hotel because they were having a special party there. So we went there, and I saw this guy, and there were two guys at the table almost next to ours. And in the hotel, it wasn't in the lobby, but it was down below. So I looked at this guy, and he looked at me, and I said, I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to marry that guy. And so he came over and asked me to dance. And he said, I'm not a very good dancer. But I said, well, I'm not either. But he said, well, I'm stepping on your feet. I said, that's okay, I step on them all the time. So, that's the way we got acquainted. After that, there was a period of time in there.
Now, was he in the military at that time?
Yes, he was in the Navy.
He was in the Navy.
Yes.
So, was it okay for you guys to date?
Yes, as long as we didn't date officers. And he wasn't an officer.
Okay. And what was his name?
Jim Meads.
Jim Meads.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar name.
Right.
Was he a pretty good looking fella?
Very handsome man.
What was handsome about him to you?
Oh, he had beautiful eyes. And he had Jim's hair. He looked just like Jim. There wasn't much difference in my Jim, and that's why we have to identify them. My Jim and your Jim. That's the way I usually say it.
So, did you see him for most of the? How long did you date him while you were in San Diego?
3 months.
And then what happened?
And then my father and mother came to San Diego, and my dad performed the wedding ceremony in the chapel of the chapel of the stations. They had a little chapel there. So that's how we got married.
Oh, how many people came to the wedding?
Oh gosh, there was a whole big bunch of my girlfriends.
Oh, gosh, that's really sounds beautiful.
It was very pretty. Afterward, they had a reception for me. So I really appreciate them. Of course, they threw rice all over us. I don't know whether they do that anymore or not.
No, they don't.
They don't.
Bad for the birds.
Is that right?
That's what they say.
Oh my goodness.
So, did you go on a honeymoon, or did you just stay in San Diego?
No, the war was about over, so fact is it was over. So we just my dad and mother had gotten a motel, but right at first, the first night we stayed at the Grant Hotel where we met, and after that, we went to another place. San Diego. My husband, after we were married, he had just one day, and he had to go and have get his discharge. So since he got his discharge, I could get my discharge because on his discharge.
So let me get this right. You dated each other. You saw each other for 3 months, and then you were separated?
Just for a day.
I'm a little lost here.
Well,
Do you guys understand what's happening here?
We were separated just for a day in order to see, he had to go to San Francisco to get his discharge.
Okay.
So
Well, what year were you married?
We were married in 45.
1945. Okay. And you met him when?
And I met him
What year?
in 45.
In 45. Oh, okay. Now I see. Okay. So prior to that, what did you wear to the wedding?
A uniform.
Oh, you did wear your uniform.
That's all we were allowed to wear. We weren't allowed to have flowers on our uniform. We were
Okay.
just
So, in the period before that then, and I guess from about, well, let's back up just a little bit. So, were you in San Diego when Pearl Harbor happened?
yes.
What do you remember about that?
I remember going to the window and seeing all these people down in the in the barracks, and they were just milling around. And then when this happened, they were all going, "Yay!" and carrying on. So that was what I remember about it.
The people were
We were sailors.
they were cheering about hearing about Pearl Harbor?
They were cheering that everything was going to be better now.
You mean that we were going to go to war?
No, I don't know. I think I'm mixed up.
It was the end of the war.
That's the end of the
Yeah,
war.
right.
That's
That was the end of the war.
Well, no, let's talk about Pearl Harbor for a minute.
Okay.
Do you remember when you first, where were you when you first actually heard the words Pearl Harbor? Or what did you feel?
I
You
don't
remember?
remember.
You don't remember? Okay. Well, tell us then, what do you remember about the rest of your service time up to 1945 when you met your husband? What other things did you do?
Well, I was stationed at this commander's office, and it was a personnel office. It's where I was stationed, and I wasn't too satisfied with my appointment there. So I asked him if I could be transferred. So they transferred referred me to the publications office. And there I found out that the atom bomb was made, but I didn't dare say anything. And they were really, you just didn't talk about it. So.
How did you actually come to find that out? Did you read something that said it?
Yes. They had to publication it out, but they would only allow certain people to have the publications. And then we were distributing them to the people whom they wanted to have those publications.
Did you have any sense? You knew it was secret, but did you have any sense of the power of it all?
No, none whatsoever.
Do you remember when the bombs were dropped?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
Well, I didn't think too much of it, but I did know that it was going to end the war.
Mm-hmm. What actually, when the bombs were dropped, how much information? Like newspapers were your primary source of information, right?
Yes.
Was there at that time, did people know really? Could you really understand what had happened? I mean, that the towns were completely
too young. We were too young to understand.
to take it in.
Yes.
Did the papers actually say that the cities were destroyed? And
Yes.
they did.
Yes.
The whole cities.
Yes.
Which that had never happened before in history, right?
No.
So it must have been.
It was devastating to everybody.
It's hard to take in.
Yes.
So shortly thereafter, Japan surrendered.
Yes.
And that's when you were talking about everybody
Yes.
gathering and cheering.
Yes. And we decided, a bunch of us girls decided that we would go downtown to San Diego. And my gosh, we got right there on the street, and the boys would grab us and give us a kiss. So that was exciting. But we didn't stay very long. We didn't stay long at all. We took off and went back to North Island. And it was we had to, in order to get to this island, we had to take some kind of a not a bus, but I can't remember what it was, but anyway, it was like what we would we would.
The ferry?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of the word, Jim. Yes, it was a ferry.
Tell us a little bit about your husband. Where was he from?
He was from Alderson, West Virginia.
Oh. So that was your first connection to West Virginia?
Yes, it was scary.
What was scary?
That was scary when you didn't know the family and you didn't know what you were getting yourself into.
Okay, well let's talk about that. So the war was ended, and you both got discharged.
Yes.
True?
Yes, and we went to Montana then, or after the discharges. We went to Montana.
To see your folks?
To see my parents.
Okay.
Yes.
Who he had already met.
Yes.
And how long did you stay there?
A month.
1 month. That must have been wonderful.
Yes, we had a good time. My dad took us to the American Legion, Hall, because he was a chaplain of the American Legion. But he went up there, and here they were drinking and carousing. Of course, that didn't go very big with my father. So he said, "Come here, but we're not going to stay here. We're going to go and I'm going to feed you a big meal." So he took us out to eat.
What'd you have? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. So after Montana, then did you know you were headed to Alderson, West Virginia?
Yes.
And was it your plan to live there?
Yes.
But you had not met your in-laws yet.
No.
Okay. How did you get to Alderson?
By bus. Greyhound.
Okay, tell us about your trip and about your arrival.
Well, when I arrived, I had appendicitis attacks all the way across the country, and so I had to go into the hospital and get my appendix taken out.
Oh gosh.
That wasn't a cheerful thing.
So did that happen first thing?
Yes.
Like what?
It was around Christmas time.
Mm-hmm. And what were your first impressions of your in-laws and West Virginia? Those are really two questions, I guess. Did you like your in-laws?
They were okay, but the father had died before, and just the mother and a sister and a brother were living at home.
And how did West Virginia hit you?
I liked it. I liked the surroundings,
What did you like about it?
the mountains, and of course I was used to the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked that part.
So tell us a little bit about your life after that. What was your plan to make a living, or plans?
Well, my husband didn't get a job right off the bat, but any little odd jobs that he could find, he worked at it. So he became a state police for 10 years.
And where did you live?
We lived in Alderson.
Did you have your own home or
We
or
had
your
an
own
apartment.
little rental place?
Uh-huh.
How long did it take for him to get a job with the state police?
Well, that wasn't right off the bat. He worked at the prison, the women's prison, and for a while. But
Anybody famous in the prison at that time?
I don't believe so.
Okay. How did he like that work?
Well, he was just a truck driver.
Okay. At the
So-
prison.
So
Okay.
he wasn't too involved.
All right. And did you guys start having children in that period?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. And how long did you stay in Alderson?
My son was about 5, and my daughter was just born when we moved to Alderson.
Okay. And after Alderson, did you stay in West Virginia?
Yes.
And where else did you live?
Let's see, gosh.
No, rattle them off.
Here we go.
Okay.
Well, we stayed. First of all, we had Jimmy help me.
Grantsville.
Grantsville was the first place.
And how about the painter
And
story?
Jim went to my son, or my husband went to Grantsville as a painter and did painting around because they were trying to catch all of these people who were
Selling moonshine.
yeah. They were selling moonshine, so they were trying to catch them, and he caught a lot of them. So he and Trooper Haynes, you may know Haynes, but Haynes was there at that time.
Uh-huh. And so Grantsville and other cities too, or?
Well, my son started school in Grantsville,
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter learned to get along with people. She would travel from one house to another and saying hi. And of course she wasn't very old. She was 5 years, there was 5 years difference in her age and Jim's. So Judy was a very outgoing person.
Okay. So tell us about the rest of your life. Is there anything that you got grandkids now?
Yes, I have two granddaughters.
And where are they?
One is she got her doctorate. Where was Jim?
And that was in Georgia.
Yeah, in Georgia.
And then did WVU. She got a doctorate, I guess.
Then my other granddaughter is a teacher at Shepherdstown College, the university there. And she has been that ever since she graduated from school.
I want to ask you this question. World War II seems to mostly be a kind of war of good and evil, black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Would you see it that way? Is that a fair way to characterize it?
Now, what do you mean by black
Well,
and
I mean
white?
that Hitler was so evil, and
Yeah, he was.
just the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We were provoked and all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But subsequent to that, we had the Korean War, which we still have troops in, and we had the Vietnam War, and now we've had many other conflicts in
yes.
Iran and Afghanistan.
Yes.
I mean, not Iran, but Iraq. What? How do you see all that in your mind, or do you ever even think about it?
I think God will not allow this to go on. I think that He's going to see that the wars are going to end, and there won't be any more wars.